Lonely Planet's a really interesting case because we were founded on independent travel in the 70s, which was a very specific demographic of people who were backpacking across Asia. And that is something which still remains very core to our offering. You know, we still ensure that we offer budget recommendations for people who might be having that first ever trip with their backpack. But I think what has been important for the company is that we've grown with our audience, trying to get the best information to people to have the best experiences when they travel. That raison d'etre is still applicable today as it was in 1973. Marketing at Lonely Planet is really about understanding our audience and then helping the business to determine what that audience needs. Innovation is something which I think is part of our DNA. As technology evolves and you're able to embrace the different opportunities and the ways in which consumers will use that technology, it's just about understanding how you can help them solve a problem. It's about being experimental and being innovative, but making sure that you listen to the consumer. And if it's something which they're not ready for, maybe it's parking it and coming back to it. Maybe it's doing it differently. And not being afraid to have those sorts of conversations, I think, is probably what's key. Because we're content first, everything that we're doing is about creating the best information and inspirational content for travellers. You don't just want to put content into places where it's going to annoy people or it's going to be out of context. It goes back to that point of understanding what your audience is, and we talk a lot at Lonely Planet about putting the traveller first, and then determining how that technology can enable something which makes sense for the traveller. So in the case of voice, essentially what we were doing was thinking, in what scenarios are people going to be speaking to their voice device where they're going to want information about a destination? You've got the expertise of our writer who's been on the ground, who understands how safe it is, who understands how great a destination it is, who understands the best time to go. All of those things can then be spoken to the room and immediately give the context to that audience who needs it and when they need it. Today, consumers expect to see content in video format, in podcasts, in magazines, on social media, and so the business has had to grow, and that's where marketing is so key, because you have to understand your audience across all of those channels. And I think it's really important as a business that we understand the different needs of different demographics, different styles of content in different places that are appropriate to their needs. And that's something which, if you constantly apply that lens to what you're doing, so we talk about putting the traveller first, that enables you to make sure that you're not just putting the same things in lots of places. It means that you're tailoring everything specifically to the context. So our mobile app, for example, guides that is for cities, and that's because we know that people travelling in a city context want fast information on their smartphone, but border crossings across multiple countries, that isn't the same context and wouldn't apply for a smartphone app. And so it's applying that sort of logic, I think, is really important to ensuring that today's consumer finds you useful in many different contexts. So travel patterns to Sub-Saharan Africa are incredibly different to travel patterns to Western Europe, and that will require a different set of products for the traveller. And it's great that we're able to operate in a way that serves those different needs. So I think it's about content and creating really, really good quality content and investing in the best people to get that content into the hands of travellers, but also setting the business up in a way to be able to get that content to people in the best way possible. The interesting thing about Lonely Planet is everybody that comes to work here does so because they love travel. And so for us, that's the unifier. And that allows us every year to come together as a business and run an event that we call Lonely Planet's Travel Hack. And that is across every single office that we have around the entire globe. That really brings everybody together, that regardless of whether you are a developer or whether you're one of our writers on the ground, everybody can have that shared understanding of what it means to have a really great experience. It really gives you a strong sense of brand. And I think that's something that's been really powerful for us. And that then enables us to create products which really speak to a wide range of travellers. It enables us to provide recommendations to people who might be based in many different continents around the globe, because we're bringing together a multitude of voices. We're always encouraging people to look beyond the places they already know and are familiar with, and understand that there's just so much out there to discover. And however well-travelled you are, there's kind of always somewhere exciting to discover. Lonely Planet's content business is a really, really interesting way of looking at how companies can work in the 21st century. We've gone through an enormous transition as a business to become content first, and that's involved a lot of technological change. It's involved a lot of things which aren't particularly sexy to the consumer, content management systems. It's stuff that makes it work, but that stuff has been a real journey for Lonely Planet to ensure that we're able to get the best information to consumers as quickly as possible. You know, from the second that our writer is on the ground in somewhere like Vietnam, to be able to ensure that they're able to update that content management system and that in real time update our website is something which 10 to 15 years ago would have seemed like a real challenge, and today is a reality for us. I think if you think of marketing as answering people's questions, it doesn't really matter what the subject matter is. The excitement is being able to provide those answers. To anybody who's marketing anything, I would say one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever been given is listen. Marketing is often thought of as being communicating your messages, but it's also about hearing what your audience needs and then communicating appropriately. It shouldn't be a one-way conversation. You know, conversations between human beings are always a two-way dialogue, and marketing needs to be thought of like that, because yes, Lonely Planet has really sexy subject matter and beautiful beaches and incredibly exciting activities, but you know, if you work in marketing for any different type of product or organisation, it should feel really satisfying to be able to help people solve their problems. And if you listen to them to understand what those problems are, then your messages will become so much more powerful because you're speaking to somebody who wants to hear them.